Today, I want to speak to you about one of the Gottmans exercises. John and Julie Gottman have created a number of wonderful exercises to help couples move through difficult situations. The last one I did was on the relationship house, the sound relationship house. So, if you want a sort of a general blueprint on how to conduct a good relationship, check that one out. But today I want to speak to you on the art of compromise. So, obviously, the Gottmans knew that a lot of people have difficulty compromising. And if you're going to get along, you're going to have to figure that out. It's Marriage is a give and take relationship. It can't be one-sided. One person cannot be selfish in order to have a good relationship. A person could be selfish throughout the whole marriage and they could be married 60 years, but that cannot be a happy relationship. So that's why they created this exercise. Now, here it is. If you want it downloaded, I have a link in the description that you can kind of take a look at it yourself and just sort of use maybe if you're going to try to have this type of conversation with your partner. So basically, the way that they use the art of compromise is that think of it as being a circle. And inside the circle is an area of inflexibility. And then the outside, kind of like a donut. Inside of the donut is, I am not flexible on this. But the larger, like the donut itself, not the hole, is much larger than the hole. And that's your area of flexibility. So the whole point here is that you're going to have a lot more room, a lot more area to write your areas of flexibility than you will in the smaller area of I have no flexibility around this. The Gottmans have this saying that you should drop the need to win in an argument and rather yield to win in the argument. And this is something that I really try to nail home in my couples. It's sort of like drop this idea that you need to win. It's all about winning. And if you win, then the other person loses. And a person should never feel like they're losing out. It's that's sometimes like when people think about compromise, they feel like, well, if we're going to compromise on this issue, that means I'm going to be at a loss in some way. There's something about me that's going to feel empty. But that's not really the way we should think of it because in any relationship, it's not an I situation. It's always a we situation. Just even things like you never say my child, you say our child. You never say my income or my earnings or my finances. It's ours. I don't care if you run a huge corporation and your wife is a stay-at-home mother, it's still our money. It's always our money. And it's, yeah, kind of interesting that I bring up money here because I'm going to try to use an analogy of where I often see couples struggle and how they can possibly get to some sort of compromise with this. It's well known, and I would certainly agree. Well, I was going to say the two main reasons why couples argue, you often hear it's finances and sex. I'm going to use the art of compromise to talk about sex frequency, mainly sex frequency. But there, you know what, honestly, I feel like it's not just finances, sex. It's often what I see coming up a lot is emotional wellness of one partner over the other, like the ability of a partner to, I'm going to say, express their needs. Okay, I bet this will be another video, but I will make another video expressing your needs and being an active listener when your partner's speaking and to be able to express your needs is really what emotional wellness is to sort of gain the understanding of your partner's perspective. It's not so much what we hear a lot about. It's like men need to talk about their feelings. Men need to express themselves more. I don't think that's true. I'm not saying you can get away with being a mute, you know, in your relationship, but you don't need to be chatty Cathy all the time in order to be emotionally well. And I don't think you need to talk about the depths of your feelings in terms of being emotionally well. It's more of being able to understand another person's perspective and be a good listener when they're describing their perspective. And this is really what it gets down to here. So let's talk about sex and compromise. So in the diagram, it breaks it up, like I said, two different areas. What's the core need of my area of inflexibility? And where can I be more flexible? So I'm just going to kind of give you some examples of what some people might write down. It's kind of funny. I don't think I've ever used this exercise when someone's talking about their sex life, but it can be one of these areas that you've been stuck on for a long, long time. Although I will say that there's a bigger I think there's a bigger issue, value, belief that's behind it. And it does speak about this. Okay, so you might say something like, what are your these are the questions that you might ask your partner that's again, it's on the sheet that might help you get to a yes or a compromise. So, one of the questions could be, what are your core feelings, beliefs, and values about this issue? So, it might seem kind of awkward asking your partner that question, why? And okay, let me be stereotypical here, and maybe you want to call me sex bias, gender bias, but it's normally the man that's requesting a greater amount of frequency of sex. So, as a wife, you could say, what's your core need, belief, or values behind having sex 3 times a week when we have two little kids? And, busy lives. We're both working. Maybe some people are working 2 jobs, for goodness sakes. So, what are your core needs behind that? What's your values? What's your belief? And you know what? If, hey, a lot of people put down a lot of religious beliefs when it comes to, frequency of sex, and maybe the man's saying, in the Bible, it's stated that women need to be submissive or whatever scripture you're going to pull out. Hey, I believe in God. I'm Roman Catholic, but you got to be very careful, if you're going to use those terms, right? It's got to be in the context of what's best for both of you, and ultimately, what it means to love another person. So I doubt that there's really any core feelings, beliefs, and values when it comes to wanting to have sex multiple times a week. Let's say much, much greater frequency than what the woman wants. Okay, so I think we can pretty much drop those questions. Those questions could be very important when it comes to another area of compromise. But I don't feel it's very fitting for this topic of sex frequency. So other questions that you might ask instead is, what do we agree about concerning this? And so I just wrote down some examples. You know, if someone has an inflexible area or a core need surrounding sex and frequency. For example, maybe someone would say, I'm very inflexible when it comes to porn. Pre having sex, outside of sex, during sex, or whatever. Maybe someone is just highly against porn. And if we're going to have sex, I don't want any porn. Another person could say, we cannot have sex if I don't feel loved. And like that the person physically cannot do it, like the woman physically cannot do it if you don't feel loved. So then, if I would hear something like that in a session, I would highly encourage that person to describe, what does it mean to you to feel loved? Maybe you've never described that to your partner before. Maybe that's just sort of something you think to yourself all the time, or maybe you don't even know what it is. You should really sit down with that question and ask, how do I feel loved? What does it mean for me to be loved? Because, I often see something like this, like where, let's say the man feels like he's doing so much for the family just by being a good provider. You know, yeah, for example, like let's say it's a stay-at-home mom and he feels hell, like sorry. I bring home the bacon, I'm the one that's, providing, like this is something, this is menial of me to ask, having very frequent sex or something like that. So the wife feels indebted, then it becomes transactional, and that's not romantic, that's not, no. It should be that, we're both benefiting from this, right? Like I want to give to you and you want to give to me, and, together we are one sort of thing. I think I should probably, I'm gonna do a separate video on sex and frequency, but like I'm just trying to give you examples of what like getting to the core need, what that would might mean. So maybe you have something like my core need is that we always have makeup sex or something like that, that we use sex to just make up from an argument. And I would say, you got to use that with caution. I think you would have to have like a lot of like apologies about whatever argument you would have had or discussion that you would have had if you're going to say something like that. Like you can't just be very, very mean to one another and then just say, well, like, let's just have sex and, get over it. No, that doesn't work, right? Like, again, it's like very important that you think of this as we both win. I mean, even in an argument, like you both need to apologize to each other. It's sort of, I think for me, the big part about this is like in all my sessions and when it comes to what it means to love another person, you can't say something like, oh, to love means to do this, this, and have my, check off list. Like to me, love really just boils down to being kind, to be kind to one another. Like acts of kindness, in a ways that you can't argue that that person loves you or doesn't love you. You know what I mean? Like just sort of, for example, well, it's my birthday today and my husband, bless his heart, for me, acts of kindness would be picking up things for me because I don't like driving. I don't like driving. I love walking. I love cycling. I love commuting that way. And when I can't do that, give me a helicopter or a jet or something like that. I just want to go to places. I don't like long car rides. So anyway, like I ordered something across the border and it's about an hour and a half away. And as a joke, a few weeks ago, I just said, for my birthday, you could actually pick up that parcel and, I could hire a courier service to do it. But like I know that he has more time than he usually has right now. So I just, thought maybe. And there's another thing that I just asked him to do, and both of those things got done. So I know he loves me. Like it's like it's he did get me roses as well, but in a card, and oh my gosh, like he baked me a cake, and he's making dinner tonight. It's sort of like that's I know he loves me, but it's not long romantic like blah 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 stuff for us, and but that's me. You might be a total romantic and you want like I don't know, like you might get insulted if it's sort of this outwardly act of kindness like that. But that's why you need to have these discussions, like you have to say what's meaningful. Like, how can you show me kindness? What are ways that you can show me kindness? Might just be a simple question. And I think, that's a way of showing your love for another person. So bringing it back to this and the art of compromise, you could have many areas of flexibility. You could have, time of day. Maybe you're exhausted at night. Most women are. Most women, once they, have their shower or their bath and, have everything in order in the house, they just want to relax. So maybe it's time of day so that they know when it's time to relax, they can actually relax. In what other areas? Frequency. I mean, you got to have flexibility when it comes to that. Like, it can't be like every week we have sex twice a week. There's no like flexibility on that. Or if you guys have been traveling, if one's sick, if you've had like a rough patch in your marriage, you know what? Like, I mean, yeah, the frequency, of course, that's going to change. That's the job, right? Is to find out where are my non-negotiables in this, and where are where can I be flexible? Where can you be flexible? And if you truly love the other person, if you truly care for them, if you truly want what's good for the other person, as Thomas Aquinas has, described love as, is willing the good of another as a human being. Like I want what's good for you. It's being less about myself and more about my partner. That's the level that we're getting at here. That's what's important. I hope that's clear. I hope it helps you. And again, download it off my website and let me know if you have any questions or comments or if you need more explanation. I'm here to help. Okay, thanks.